Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are going to be pressing this lovely dress here. And I just thought just working on the whole dress during the live stream would be a great way to go over all kinds of pressing tips. So as you can see, she's vintage. She has been cleaned and conditioned, and she's going to be ready for storage. My hands are clean. Some people like to work with gowns that are going to be preserved with cotton gloves on. I just don't really have very sticky, gooey hands. My hands stay pretty dry, in fact. So I just go ahead and use my hands. But if you're one of those like sweaty palmed individuals, then you may want to use the cotton gloves. Hello, Kaylee. Welcome. Hello, Rossi. We are pressing this dress today, and I'm going to talk about all my tools down here that we use. Hello, Lori, my faithful friend. This is a lovely, lovely vintage gown. Isn't it beautiful? So, yeah, I'm just going to be working on her today. You guys can drop any questions that you may have. Let me just angle this down where you can see what we're doing. There we go. So I normally will start with the bodice. Now this is silk. So this outer layer this is silk. And technically you're not supposed to use a lot of steam with silk. So I don't always 100% dry press. You can tell this is going to need a little bit of extra negotiating to get all these creases out. She has been cleaned, but she's still not super smooth. So as I'm pressing, I'm going to start with the main tailor's hams that I'm going to be using. I love my vintage ones. They do sell modern ones, but the vintage ones are just amazing. So here is kind of a sleeve ham. This ham. This is technically the ham shape. It looks just like a ham, doesn't it? So I'm going to start just like this. And I like to just supple it up a little bit with steam. Again, you're not supposed to use a lot of steam when dealing with silk, but I feel like it really does help a lot. What you're looking for is you don't want to use so much steam that the silk begins to lose its conditioning and it starts to get kind of crispy. So that's what I look for with that. And the dry press gives it this lovely sheen. So a true dry press is going to be almost no steam. Here we go. You guys drop in the comments approximately where you're from and what your sewing level is. I always like to hear that. And let me know if you have any questions about pressing that I can address today that'll help you out. So again, just dry pressing. I shot this little intersection with a little bit of steam because she could use a little bit of extra help. And it almost feels like polishing when you are working on the silk. It's just really laying those fibers down smooth. You definitely want to make sure your sole plate is clean and smooth and good condition. And just even look at how this seam is laying down compared to this other one. Very, very nice. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna hit this with a little bit of steam. She looks a little bubbly through here. So we might have to kind of retrain her. So again, for those who are just joining, typically you're going to be doing a dry press, but I am using a little bit of steam, just making sure I don't use enough so that she gets crispy. So I'm working on the bodice of the gown first, and then I'm going to work my way to the skirt. All of these little tips need to definitely be pressed down. I'll use plenty of steam with them. This isn't a super dimensional lace that I have to worry about. Oh no, am I crushing it and we're going to lose the beautiful design of the lace? It's not really like that, so we can just happily keep pressing. All right. Is it still hot where you guys are? It's been so hot. Don't forget, I'm going to be doing live streams now to the end of the year, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday around 1 o'clock. Some weeks may vary, but you can mark it on your calendar to be looking out for me around that time. And most Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I'll be here live streaming a specific topic, and I try to choose things that are not just exclusive to bridal, but it can be helpful for all sewing levels and all project types. So, for instance, this pressing, it's good for learning about vintage care, and it's just great to learn how to press garments, and you're learning about how to press silk. So no pressure if you're not into bridal. It's just fine. Isn't this lace beautiful? And really, the sewing quality is very good. All of these lines are nice and neat and straight. Impressive. Whoever did this, they really did a good job. Now, we're coming across a bustle hook here. Right there. We are preserving this dress, so we're going to take off any extra little pieces of metal that don't belong. So I need to go step to the side real quick and get a razor and remove that. There we go. And I'm just breaking the threads with the razor, not cutting the dress. I know this scares some of you who are team seam ripper, but I find the razor to be just so much more accurate for me. So I always prefer them. The other thing that we remove for the gown preservation, and I do have a whole course on this, by the way, if you want to learn how to clean and preserve gowns, it includes a certification. Anything with metal, see that? It needs to come off. So we're going to take all of these off. If someone was to wear this dress again, we would have to replace the buttons anyways. This is a canvas shank or a tufted back, and they do kind of dry rot to where once they're put under pressure and tugged on, this will just simply rip. So there's a couple reasons why we need to remove all of those buttons. And what I do is I just put a note on the box letting them know, here's your buttons, and they're in a separate bag. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and remove these. The traffic stirred up today. Here we go. If it's a metal zipper, would I remove it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I'm going to be kind of looking at it and seeing if there's any like corrosion going on. If there's any rust at all starting, any signs of rust, definitely remove it. If it's like aluminum and it looks like still just maybe a little bit of a foggy look to a silver, um, and the zipper is kind of integral to the construction of the dress, I may very well leave it. Just depends. But as you can see, this is a nylon zipper. Sometimes you do hit the sweet spot when they've been sewn on with a running stitch. It wasn't really like that up here. This was a little bit of a fight up here. But yeah, so we just take all of the buttons and we're going to put them in a little baggie. So they still have them. We don't ever take anything away. It's not our property, so we're not going to take them away and throw them away. So, all right, we're going to continue pressing. Definitely okay to use plenty of steam around that zipper. That's just fine. And we've got all of our mess, all of our little mess left over from the buttons. Let's see here. And you'll notice there's lots of little threads inside of this dress. Like this. I'm definitely going to trim all of those. We just want to neaten everything up. All right, so let's get back to this silk here. Another thing about the dry press versus using steam, if you just hit it with steam a little bit, and then take a little time to polish it up, the heat will help that humidity get driven out as well. So we're back to where we started. Okay. And let's work on these sleeves. We're going to switch to this hem. Oh, goodness. Lori says 78 degrees today. Nice. 78% humidity as well. It was 93 yesterday. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Everybody's been anticipating this little cool down they keep telling us that we're going to get. And we're all very much looking forward to it, aren't we? So I'm basically just wanting to expand every seam to where we don't have the little wrinkles underneath. We're just going to kind of keep working this around. This part, goodness, this part really needs it. I tried to get those Meta glasses, guys. I was like, oh, wouldn't that be so cool for live streaming? You would just have my point of view from my glasses. I looked and looked and looked for, the different brands and all that. And sadly, it was just like, I just kept going through it, and it would say in the end, after I put all this time into all these steps, it would finally just say, your prescription is incompatible with these frames. And it just did it over and over. So finally, I searched. I'm like, what is wrong? Like, it didn't give me any information as to why it was incompatible or if there was anything I could do. So I Google searched it, and okay, I'm kind of blind as a bat. My prescription is like, let's see, negative 6.5, 6.75, whatever. I'm a high minus, okay, is what they call you. High minus. So if I take my glasses off, I can see something that is like 6 inches in front of my face, and then that's it. So, apparently you can't get these glasses if your prescription is over -6. So, which both left and right are for me. So I don't get to have those. I did think about just buying them with regular lenses and going to like a local lens place and just having them put them in anyways. Because it may be something where they're like, it was a stylistic choice where they were like, we don't want our name on this. Just a little bit of the lens edge shows if you, once you go over this strength or whatever. It may work just fine. It was just that they didn't like the look of that, but that's just how it has to be for me. So maybe someday I'll try that out. But as of right now, I can't get them. You can't get there from here. So I am grabbing every little bit of scallop here and stretching it out because that's such an important detail of this lace edge. You can see, again, I'm expanding the seam fully so that it looks nice and pretty. This dress is quite the jellyfish. You can see she's trying to pull herself to the floor the whole time. And I'll show you my rigging system in a minute, how we deal with that with dresses. But right now, I just knew I needed to be flipping her around a lot. So she's just hanging loose, and I'm just kind of fighting with her, and it's okay. She's not pulling so hard that she's going to rip herself. So she's fairly lightweight. She's just putting up a little bit of a fight. All right, so there's that. Now I'm going to hang her up and I'll show you my rigging system. It's pretty handy. And for this, I'm basically just going to, again, supple her up a little bit. And then I'm going to press the skirt. So here's how she looks. There's that other little thread. I basically just kind of trim threads the whole time that I work on a dress. So the bodice is mostly done. She's going to be filled out when we put her in the box. So that's nice. But here's the rigging system. We have this cleat on the wall, and we've got a pulley over there. Ignore that veil clip. And then we've got a pulley here, and then an S hook, and then we hang her here. And then that way we can raise or lower the dresses if they're really heavy. She's already in the right place for her height for me to be able to work on the bottom of her skirt. But if I were to try to get this part of her skirt over here on the ironing table, she's much too high. So let's look at what this looks like. I'm gonna let her down to get her waist pretty much even with the ironing table. This is not a drapery cleat. Those a lot of times are plastic or they're some type of mixed metal that's kind of weak. This is actually a cleat that you use for a small boat. So it's iron, it's tough. And then these are 4-inch screws that are made for more like decking or something. Pretty stout screws because they've got to go through here all the way through here and deep into the studs. And then I just add that extra washer there so that it gives a little bit extra security. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the pressing. And also just say hello to me and say hello to one another. The engagement in the comments actually means a lot to the live stream. So I don't really care what you say in there. If you want to tell me, as long as it's nice, if you want to tell me the name of your dog, you just say whatever you want amongst yourselves down there. As long as you're kind, it's very helpful. All right, so same thing. I'm going to supple up the waist a little bit. Okay, I'm working my way down to the middle of the skirt and a little bit at the bottom. I'm not going to do too much at the bottom because I'm not worried about pressing it yet. And then I want to start at a place that's going to be obvious to me that, hey, I've gotten all the way around. So I'm going to start to the right of the zipper. And up high on this dress, the way it's cut, the pattern is cut, I can actually do all the layers at one time. So I'm going to start with that. So she's hanging like this. Let's talk about the temperature of the iron. It's set to nylon right here. I take a whiteout pen and I mark it real obvious where it needs to be, just so my team doesn't accidentally bump it and does not know what temperature setting it should be on. All right, so my first pass, the layers are all going to be stacked together, and that's just fine. Then we're going to separate these layers and do them one at a time. For those just joining, this top layer is silk, which should typically be a dry press. But in the early stages of pressing it, I do use a little bit of steam as long as it doesn't make it crispy. For those who have been on the call the whole time, you're going to be saying that in your sleep, aren't you? I just like to be clear. I don't want anybody to go out and ruin their silk and be like, oh, well, I saw that lady do it. I'm just really trying to get these layers softened up and ready for pressing. This stage of suppling up the fabric has a huge impact on how easy the rest of the press job is going to be for you. Saw string. There we go. Little thread. Tell me in the comments, what year did you get married? I got married in the year 2000, which is really cool for anniversaries. It's so easy to remember which anniversary we are. It's like the date of the year. Now look at the nest along the hem. So this horsehair braid was never kind of anchored down very well. So I'm using high contrast lighting. Sometimes people are like, why are you sewing in the dark? It's actually not like super dark in here. That's just kind of the settings make it look like that. But I'm doing it on purpose so that you can hopefully really see a lot of contrast. And the way I have it backlit with the light all back here and the dark in front you can kind of see through stuff. So it gives you like x-ray vision. I feel like it's a very helpful perspective there. All right, so I've got the top 2 layers. Now I'm a little bit sad about this because underneath the lace and the silk is this netting that has a larger cell size or honeycomb size to it. And sometimes that will leave an imprint on the silk. So I want to show you what that looks like. And when it does that, I just do whatever I have to do to separate that layer as best I can, because it will leave that honeycomb imprint on the silk. And we do not want that, right? So let's look and see what this does. You have to test it out. And see. I feel like it's okay. Sometimes it's just so coarse, it's not okay. I had a bride one time, her whole dress, it was a silk dress. I did a short about it one time, but I didn't go into a lot of detail. Her top layer of her dress was a shiny silk satin, and it was a Panina Tournée gown, one of her huge ball gowns, very expensive dress. And the girl got it for a really affordable price. It had been used and it was very dirty. And we cleaned it for her. And then I said, well, we can steam it for you for X amount of dollars. I forget what it was, probably a couple $100. It was a huge dress. We can steam it, which is actually not really what you're supposed to do with the fabric to keep it nice and shiny. When you steam it, it kind of had like a feathered look to the silk satin. It didn't have that glassy, shiny look. And I said, that's only from the dry press. And she had such a coarse, stout, almost a can tool behind the silk that I said, to press your dress, we will have to literally take it apart and press that silk satin layer and then sew it all back together, preventing any wrinkles in the process. So I priced her at $600. And this was like, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe. This dress has been mended to the hilt. Do you guys see this? Oh, the mending. And get you turned around. It's been mended quite a bit. So anyhow, I told her 600, and I said, let me call Kleinfeld's, and where the Panina showroom is. I'll speak with the head of alterations there, and verify that that is the only way to properly press this gown, because I know I'm giving you a really high price. And so I want to verify it just so you're not wondering, am I taking you for a ride or what? Is there an easier way? Whatever. So I called them, and I actually had them text me the convo. I talked to them on the phone, but then we texted it back and forth so I could send her a screenshot of the alterations professional at Kleinfeld saying, yes, that's the only way to press this dress. And they have a lovely pressing department and prepping department there in Kleinfeld. I've been in their sewing area, pressing and prepping area a couple times. And they do fascinating work there. So they know what they're doing. They have to get some of these dresses pressed and aisle ready and then hung in these huge boxes to ship, because where it's going, the bride may not can have it pressed. So they're very, very good pressers there. So I got the word, yes, that's what you have to do. And I warned the bride. I said, I know it's a lot of money. Feel free to go, shopping elsewhere, but I need this much lead time to get it done. It's a huge job. And um, I just said, if you go to someone else and they give you a lower price, or God forbid, a much lower price, I'm just warning you that probably means that they don't understand what they're going to have to do. If they understood it, they would know that that's the price it has to be. So I was very, very clear in my warning to her. And honestly, if it was my dress, I would have just steamed it. Like, it really was not that big of a difference in the look, for the price. So she took the dress and she went price shopping. This is taking a lot of steam, as you can tell. The dress is not getting crispy, but look at the wrinkles just staying. So she took the dress, went around and got prices, and texted me back all excited. I found a place that will do it for, I'm making up this number because I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was very low, like $100. I'm like, okay, more power to you. So she didn't need me to do the press job. So of course I'm grateful she didn't leave me hanging. She let me know. But I was a little bit nervous for her. So what happens, but a few months later, like, time really rocked on, guys. A few months later, she calls or she texts me and she's like, they want to know what you put on the dress. And I'm like, what do you mean what I put on it? And she said, there's these marks all over it. And I said, can you please send a picture? And what it was that honeycomb imprint from the can tool against the satin, the very thing I warned her about. So I took a piece of silk satin and pressed it, and then I took another piece of silk satin and put the can tool behind it, pressed it, and of course it had the same imprint that she had on her dress at that point. And I sent her pictures and I said, this is this and this is that. This is why I said your skirt has to be disassembled, pressed, and then put back together. So I was like, it's definitely not something on it. It's because they're pressing the layers together. And again, I tested this one and it's not showing, that honeycomb shape. This lighting is crazy. Look at that. Crypt keeper's hands. They don't normally look so much like that. It's just the lighting is showing every little thing. But that's good because it shows you every little thing of what I'm doing. I always hated the sewing tutorials where they're so overly lit that everything is washed out and you can't see what they're doing. So anyhow, it was a couple weeks later, she called like sobbing, and I think it was like the week of her wedding or something. And she's like, my dress is ruined. Is there any way you can take it and press it and whatever? And I just told her there's no way. Like I told you, it would take weeks. It literally would take a team to do it. Her gown was so big, it would be in different parts, and it would take up my entire cutting room. And I can't just stop the press for all the other brides, So I told her I was very sorry, but I couldn't. I could do it. I think she was like a May wedding, and we had discussed me pressing it back in like February. So we're talking like quite a timeline in between. And she was very, very upset, you can imagine. But it was absolutely impossible. In fact, my back was out a little bit, so physically I wasn't even going to be able to do it. All I could do was apologize to her And, you know, it's situations like that. I'm honestly surprised she didn't leave me a bad review just out of her own frustration. But it's situations like that that sometimes, as a small business owner, you could stand to get a bad review over it when really you're doing all you can possibly do and you're educating the clients and all the things. But yeah, that's how that turned out. I never heard back from her. I don't know if she wore the dress. She said something about, I'm going to have to get another dress. I just hate it or something, which is so surprising to me at the last minute. I can't imagine just a little bit of a texture difference making it to where I absolutely didn't want to wear a dress. That is kind of blowing my mind a little bit, but all right. I need to lower this a little bit more to where I can get this part tucked up here. So here we go. A little bit more. There we go. How many of you are seamstresses that are on the live right now? Do you like to just watch sewing, or are you a seamstress, and are you like a hobby seamstress, or are you a professional seamstress? Inquiring minds want to know, as they say. It's a little bit different angle for you. Yeah, I needed to get those little creases out. Some of these creases are just determined. All right, let me show you one other tool that we use. I'm gonna show you with this crease right in the center front. It's kind of important that we get that out. Even though she's gonna be boxed, let's pretend like she's getting ready to go down the aisle, not like she's gonna be boxed up for another 20 years. And let's get after this crease right here. Supple her up. Polish her. And then use a clapper. And what's happening is in these tailor's hams, it's full of a nice dry white oak. And this is also a dry white oak. It's called a tailor's clapper. And all they're doing is they're drawing the humidity out at a faster rate. So if you use this combo, and these are hard, these are very hard and solid. They're not one bit squishy. You can get such crisp seams and corners, and also ideally get rid of some creases that are in there. And you can kind of rub it a little bit too. It's very, very smooth. There's nothing splintery going on here. You can also use the clapper on a curve, which I was so shocked. I'm not going to name the YouTuber, but I did see one time a YouTuber have like somebody from Royal something about pressing and whatever. And the person said that you could only use the clapper on like straight seams. You couldn't use them on curves. And oh my goodness, that's not true. I'm like, wow, they're missing out on so much. The clapper can definitely work on curves. So you can put your ham or your bust shape ham underneath, say, a bodice, apex, and steam it. And you can absolutely rock it over the curve, or even do something like this to kind of help polish it out. And it really does help a lot. So don't feel like you can't use a clapper on a curve. I was just so astonished that that they would put that misinformation out there. I'm sure they didn't like intentionally. I'm sure they were not intentionally doing that, but they were definitely misinformed. some of these creases are just in there and they're not letting go. That's that one we just worked on. That's pretty brutal. But she's been in a box for many years. We're just cleaning her up again for them to rebox her. Do I ever worry about burning my fabric? I don't, because of the iron being set to nylon. It's a very trustworthy temperature. It's not going to burn anything. All right, so this horsehair braid that was never blind stitched down at the top. It's just kind of sewn along that hem edge. So she kind of unfurls a little bit. I get that pressed down really well. Kind of make sure all the layers are laying flat when you've got these stacked layers here. They did not ask me to repair this dress kind of like with finer details in the repair. So there's like a little bitty hole. We're not gonna do that. They basically just want to preserve this dress. So you can see she's kind of starting to dry rot a little bit. So it's really nice that the silk has this netting behind it to help stabilize it. It's always better. We've got a couple of fabrics working together. Also, remember this dress was conditioned for this. If you ever want to learn about the different solutions that I use for the different cleaning stages, I do have a cleaning and boxing course. The certification, you could literally take that course, very affordable. I forget what it is, it's just a couple $100. You could literally take that course and give yourself a full-time business doing nothing but cleaning and boxing gowns. It's been a huge blessing to my business. It's a blessing to the community because so many cleaners are going out of business now and they just don't have anywhere to go. Drop a comment if you have any questions or comments. I'm getting ready to read them. So please drop a comment for me. Just let me know how your day is going or if you're stumped on a project. If you need to vent. Did somebody just bring you a dress from Shein and it was going to cost $400 to pay you fairly to repair it, and they gave you that age-old line of $400? I only paid $20 for the dress. If you need to vent, this is your safe space for that. Because we have definitely all been there. I think this side seam ripped at some point. See, it's bubbling right here. Woo, earthquake, sorry. It's bubbling right here. And it seems extra thick. So I'm thinking they had to sew it back up there, and they just did the best they could. It's not the neatest seam in the world. Yeah, we're gonna have problems right there with that bubble. You can't get a bubble to lay flat, people. If there's a bubble, you can kind of press around it so you don't create a terrible crease. But you can't make a bubble not bubble. You would just have to take it out and resew it. This is turning out so beautiful. Can you guys appreciate this from your angle? It's coming out so pretty. We're getting there. All right, let's see. Yes, Miss Jessel says, pro seamstress, love listening to the lives. Today's definitely feels like I have a coworker and we're talking some gossip while learning. That's exactly how I want this to feel. Is definitely like a lot of times I'll call them sew with me. I want it to feel like even though you're alone, maybe you're not alone. Maybe you've got someone in the sewing room with you today, and we're just chatting and we're doing some sewing projects together. So that way you can still get your sewing done, but you can have a little chat. And that was my whole goal with that. Hasn't this seen better days? Oh my goodness. Let's see. Randy, good morning, y'all. Bridal Sewing is venting live. Sometimes we gotta vent live, don't we? Actually, I haven't dealt very much lately with any of the shearing gowns. That has really cooled down this summer. Maybe people are starting to clue in. Maybe it's the tariffs, so maybe there's some sales are down. I'm not really sure. But I'm seeing a lot less of that, and I'm so glad. So glad. Do any of you guys have shop room pets, like pets that you allow in your sewing room? And if so, like what kind, what breed is it, so that you feel safe with it? Every now and then I bring Smokey to the sewing room. If you guys watch my videos, you know who Smokey is. I bring him, but only if we're not going to be ferrying a lot of dresses around. If I'm just going to be kind of in one place and it's going to be a long day and I know he's not going to get much of a break, then I'll bring him along just so he's, got some companionship for the day. But he's a Grand Royal Standard, for those of you who haven't seen him. He's a standard poodle, and he's kind of like let's see, how do I describe him? His fur. He was brown. I forget the name of the imprint. Oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank. He was brown, but he's got the fading gene. So he's more of like a gray brown now. Why can I not remember the name of the fur imprint? It's the one where he's got the little T on his chest, and he's got like the little raccoon eyes. Anyhow, I'm thinking party, and it's not party, I don't think. Oh dear. Anyhow, you'll see him if you look at some of my videos. I show him every now and then. He's a good boy, but he's so big. But luckily, poodles don't shed or anything, so I can have him in here and he won't make a mess or anything. He's at the groomers today. When I end this live, I'm going to have to go get him. And it's so funny. Let me know if you've ever had a poodle or if you've known a poodle. They're like people. They're so much like people. And it's the funniest thing when he gets groomed, when he comes back, we always say he's prideful. He just like sticks his little nose in the air, big nose in the air, and just, he'll get on the couch and just kind of position his face to where he's looking down on you. You know that expression, that look that like snooty little murderous kings and queens would have given hundreds of years ago, and you filthy serf. That's the look he gives us. It's the funniest thing. And he just frisses around, so proud of himself when he's groomed. So look out. Look out. We're going to have a snooty dog this afternoon. But I like to post a picture of him when he comes back from the groomer. So I might post a picture for you guys. But it did make me wonder who all of you have shop dogs. Shop dogs Kitties are tricky, you know, because they shed. I guess you could have a hairless or something that doesn't, but for the most part, they shed. So I'm back around to where I started. This is lovely. Yay. Okay, we've got to work on the lining layer. Let's see. The lining layer is also a hot mess. Here we go. Look at this. Ugh. Okay. Yeah, Tammy says, it makes the time go by faster and you feel like you're not so alone. Chewini, who everybody loves and asks for if she's not there. Okay, a Chewini. Let's talk about this. Is this a Chihuahua mixed with a wiener dog? That's hilarious. Okay, so this is kind of like that, looks like that, kind of like that acetate blend. Sometimes this does not press well, and sometimes it does. Oh, good. Look at us. We hit the jackpot. It presses well. Thank goodness. There's a big hole. Thank goodness it presses well. How would I fix this hole if I had to fix it? What I would do is I would put a piece of tulle behind it, and then I would do my stitching through the tulle and it looks like an acetate, but I don't know. I mean, it could, I don't know, I have some kind of old rayon. Now, I'm not sure, can't really get between the layers here very well. Let's see if steam is going to fix this. I hope. Ah, yes. She responds well to steam. We're so glad. Okay, so look at what I'm doing up here, though. I'm kind of making a mess with this, with the dress. I already did those top layers, right? Well, if you were only going to do one pass, you would definitely want to start from the inside and work your way out for that reason. But I'm not doing one pass. This dress needs a couple passes. So I'm never going to do this lining layer again, but I'm definitely going to have to do the outside layer one more time. Just when these creases are this ingrained, so to speak, I'm not sure how else to say that, then it's just going to take a few passes. What a gorgeous fabric this is. Wow, guys. Oh, it smells so good. Some people don't like that smell, but I mean, sometimes the vintage smell can have like a gross, dirty smell to it. But this doesn't. This has that wonderful, silky, vintage smell. And the conditioner that we put on it has a nice smell to it as well. So it helps make it smell a little bit fresher. All right, guys, if you have any comments or questions, leave them real quick because I'm going to have one last read and then I've got to go. We got to go get Smokey. It's time. His little spa moment is coming to an end. Whew, I'm getting a facial today, girls. He's not the only one having a spa day. On this layer, I can use all the steam I want. So you can see I'm pretty much holding the steam button down the whole time. That's a good demo of the difference there. When I was saying I wasn't using as much steam on the silk layer as usual, that's what I was talking about. Oh, and I ordered a new phone for the live streaming, and I ordered lav mics that go with the phone. So it's a special setup specifically for live streaming. So hopefully we won't have so much background noise and my audio will be a little bit more consistent. Right now it's like if I'm far away, you got to turn it up. And then if I step close to the camera, it gets really loud. So I'm looking forward to that. Doing all that stuff for you guys. Doing all that stuff to just make it a better experience. All right, I'm about halfway around. Let's see those comments. Whew. I'm pressing it. That's right. Okay, I'm scrolling back up through here. Cindy is in South Africa. Cindy, I think I remember you being on a call before. Stephen Camille says hobby seamstress. I'm always looking to learn more from the professionals. That's what I'm here for. McKenna and Tammy are working on wedding dresses while we are on the call. That's awesome. Can you guys drop me a heart emoji if you liked this call today and you like more of the um, single project live streams like this? Drop a heart in the chat for me if you like that. I really appreciate it, and it helps me so much. You don't have to do a super chat to get your questions answered here. Super chats are always appreciated, but even just a heart emoji or a bow emoji. I love that emoji. You could do either of those, and they're still a huge blessing to my channel. All right, guys, you have a lovely week. I hope you enjoy this cooler weather that's coming our way. I hope all of our friends in Hawaii are safe with that tsunami. Take care, everyone.